If there's a singular message, I think the 21st century in our nation, the evangelical church in our nation has to hear, is we have to be different. This is our watch, folks. This is our watch. We can't look through the windows of our church and say, boy, you know, things are really getting dark. We got to look through the windows of our churches and say, our light is so small, people are stumbling and struggling and falling into the pit. Unless you change. I've spent a good bit of time thinking about it, and if I had to try to reduce it down, and I did because it was my outline. I think I'd like to contrast this notion between faith that is transformational, something that's intended to bring a consistent stream, an ongoing process of transformation from the inside out, as compared to a transactional faith, a series of things to be done, boxes to be checked, accomplishments to embrace. Kind of a linear progression of I've done that, then I've been that, then I've seen that, then I've endured that. A transformational faith versus a transactional faith. Look at 2 Corinthians 3 and verse 17. The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And we who with unveiled faces reflect the Lord's glory are being transformed into His likeness with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. Now, there's much we could say about that, but the heart of it is this notion, and I'll spare you the verb tenses, but this process is that we are being transformed in an ongoing way. It's not something that is achieved and accomplished and put on the shelf with a photograph. We're being transformed more and more in an ongoing, increasing way into the image and the likeness of Jesus. How are we doing with that? How are we doing with raising the dead? Well, couldn't we start with just praying for colds? Sure, but let's start with that. How are we doing for overcoming all the attacks of the enemy? How are we doing? Is it even on the radar? Do we even think about it? Do we even talk to the Lord about it? Do we meditate on it? Is it a concern to us? Is it a discussion when we're together with our friends or when our family pulls together for the holiday? Do we say, hey, listen, how are we doing? Are we more Christ-like this year than we were a year ago? And what's the fruit of that? I don't mean your opinion. What's the evidence? Transformed. I think that idea has really been pushed to the periphery at best and maybe completely taken off the table in the discussion. Colossians 2 gives us the alternative. It says, do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. Well, these are all destined to perish with use because they are based on human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. It's kind of an outside-in approach. Don't touch that. Don't drink that. Don't do that. And if we try to carefully manage that set of things that not to be done, and we can convince all the people around us that that is the normal behavior pattern that we engage in, then we're Christians. And the reality is that isn't transformation. That's an imposition of a rule set over the top of us, but we're not really dealing with that part of us on the inside that would love to be released for sensual indulgence. Transformational faith versus transactional faith. You see, if it's a transaction, we're going to meet the obligations. There's some things we're supposed to do. This is what good Christian people do. We go to church, we do this or we do that. We fulfill responsibilities. It's confining because it doesn't really begin within us. It's kind of imposed upon us. And yeah, I know I'm supposed to do this, so I suppose I will. And we feel the constraints of that and the frustration of it. It leads to self-righteousness because then we compare ourselves to others because we're trying to bring our little license to ourselves. Well, I may not do as well as some, but I'm better than a lot more. And we find ourselves in that self-righteous quagmire. And it deteriorates even a little more fully into, enough is enough. I've just done enough. Stop talking to me. I volunteered last year. I don't have to volunteer this year. Parked between the lines 3 weeks in a row. This week I'm parking on an island. By the door. Bring your camera. Transactional faith is centered in my ability because it's about my strength of will and my force of character and how much information I can assimilate. And it's a me-centric approach to our faith, and we will ultimately be defeated every time. The alternative is transformational. It's dependent upon a power beyond me. I can't change myself. I need help. Now, I have a role to play in that. I have a will and a set of choices, and I'm responsible for self-discipline, even though it is one of the fruit of the Spirit. But I'm dependent upon a power greater than Alan. My responses to God are fueled by gratitude, not obligation. A recognition of what God has done on my behalf, what He's done towards me and for me. And the best response I can have is driven by gratitude. If you're not grateful for what God has done for you in your life, you lack awareness. Amen. It's worth spending some time thinking about that. Life's difficult. It's not easy. Most of us are mad because God didn't make our lives easier. Transformational faith is pursued, it's sought, it's not mastered. I think we spend too much time trying to decide where we are in the continuum from immature to mature as Christians. Folks, I'm willing just to say, you can put my pen over there with the beginners. I mean, I've walked with the Lord a time, and I've read my Bible a bit, but in most ways, I still feel like I'm a beginner. I'm okay with that. Beginners are the best learners. Have you been around kids lately? The little ones? Why? Why? It's like the only word they know. It'll drive you nuts. Why is the sky blue? Why is there mud in the river? Why do birds make noises? Why? 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 You know, we get to simple, we don't ask why anymore. We just tell people what we want. I don't want to lose that edge of learning. Think of the way kids gobble up language. They learn new words. What's that mean? You know, and as Christ followers, when you first become a Christian, there's a hunger, there's a capacity to learn. You don't imagine you know it all. You haven't seen it all. And then after a little ways into the journey, we become like kids. As they grow and mature, they become embarrassed to learn. You tell them something they didn't know, and they go, oh, I knew that. Oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. And we play that game as Christ followers. We sit in our churches and go, oh, yeah, I knew that. It's more pursued and sought than it is mastered. To be transformational in our faith, it requires humility on our part. We want to keep alive that sense of wonder and adventure with the Lord. When you read through the gospel, I'm just amazed. What would it have been like to have been in the boat when Jesus came walking across the lake? And Peter gets out and walks. What were the other guys saying? Show off. He's going to drown. Just watch. He's going to drown. He almost drowned. I told you, look. I don't want to lose that sense of wonder. Transformational faith is often initiated by desperation. I wish I could give you another report, but the truth is, oftentimes it's the desperate places in our lives that become the most fruitful. And when we're managing it and we got it under control, we kind of invite God in as a guest, but we don't invite Him in as an essential part of the equation. In transformational faith, proximity to Jesus, proximity to the presence of the Lord is cherished and it's sought after. I just want to plant the seed. I'm more interested in my own life and encouraging you to consider this transformational faith. It's not that we've arrived or achieved or become. Stop reciting your resume as if there's nothing important left. Who told you that? At what point when you're reading through the Gospels and the book of Acts do you look at the disciples and go, oh, they don't have anything left to learn? It seems like to me they're learning right through the end of the story. Does it feel that way to you? And yet somehow we've kind of recast this drama and retold this story so that it's in terms of achievement and accomplishment and smugness and self-righteousness. We feel more like the group of people that are resisting Jesus than we do the group of people that are cooperating with Him. So I want to invite you into the space of a learner. I give you permission not to know. Let's stop the pretense. Let's just stop. You know, I've been learning English since, I guess, the first day I went to school. And it still baffles me. I still cannot explain to you what the pluperfect verb tense is, nor why we need one. But in order to learn some other languages, I had to wrestle with that. And I thought, wow, I was in the wrong school. But I want to give you permission to be a learner. Hey, this is Pastor Allen. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, like it, and most importantly, share it with your friends. If you want to be notified when there's new content, when we post new material, if you'll just subscribe to my channel and hit the bell, you'll get the notification. Most of all, I pray God blesses you as you continue on your spiritual journey and open your heart to the Lord. God bless.